G'day, Blue Baggers, and welcome to Blues Footy Live. Bolt, welcome.
Zeus, good to be back another week. Good to have you back this week as well.
Yeah, no, it's good to be back. I'm looking forward to this show. There's a lot to get through. Get through.
It's been a big week for us, hasn't it, in the media and whatnot?
It has been. We've got the Lions this week. Talk to me. What can we expect going into this game?
Well, it's a big challenge. You know, Brisbane, despite being 2-3 and having a bit of a shaky start to the year, as in I still see them as a contender. So, you know, Brisbane's going to present an extremely difficult task to us. And I guess, you know, as we saw on the weekend, you know, with Dixon, Marshall and Georgiades getting a hold of us, we've probably got a sterner challenge this week with Danaher, Hipwood and McStay. So, you know, we're going to have our work cut out for us again against a very good opposition. But I guess the advantage for us is we're at home. So, you know, if you know, it gives us maybe a greater opportunity. But, yeah, we'll see what happens.
So let's talk about very quickly what happened on the weekend. We went down to Port Adelaide. How important is it for the club to respond to a performance like that?
Oh, it's crucial, as in it wasn't even the scoreboard that was concerning. It was just the style of play. It was the use of the footy. It was very hard to watch. It was nowhere near where it should be. And, you know, standards have to be high. We can't be accepting mediocre performances and honourable losses. And that was worse. That wasn't honourable. That was, you know, insipid, really. So it's all about bouncing back, making a statement tonight and showing that we have developed as a club and, you know, we have, you know, improved on field because, you know, supporters need to see it.
I agree. Blue Baggers tuning in, send in any questions you would like us to answer as we head into a massive week. We got the Lions Saturday at Marvel. Bolt, I want to quickly talk to you about this game in terms of some key matchups. Brisbane are obviously a very good side. I want to start in the midfield. Do you think they're going to, you know, have a direct matchup for Cripps? Will they potentially tag him? How are they going to attack the Patrick Cripps situation?
Well, to be completely honest, I don't think they'll start with a tag because, you know, without sounding ridiculous, I think at the moment that's just a waste of time, sacrificing one of their midfielders completely for the game. But I'd say, you know, at stoppages, Jared Lyons will be the one, you know, bodying him around stoppages. They got some big boys in their Lyons and Berry, they're big physical midfielders, as is Cripps. So I think, you know, they'll definitely be there. When he goes forward, I'd assume it will be Starcevic that gets him, I'm going to say. I don't think they'll necessarily tag him, but they got some absolute beasts on the inside and outside, the Lions in the middle. So it'll be very tough. Isn't there a very good team?
They are. Who's going to go into Big H?
That will be Harris Andrews. So the dual All-Australian fullback will get him. And it's a good test for H because H has had a bit of an indifferent fortnight. He kind of fought his way through adversity on the Gold Coast and he struggled. But, you know, anyone would have struggled in that forward line last week. So it's hard to criticise him. But, yeah, Harris Andrews will get H. And then I'd assume Marcus Adams, Kaz Bolt, and then Darcy, it depends what we'll speak about it later, I guess, but it depends where McGovern plays. But Darcy, Gardner, McGovern, if he's up forward.
Yeah. No, well, where do you think McGovern will play?
Well, we discussed it on Sunday night, and you raised a very, very valid point where you could see him shifting back and Matt Kennedy going forward and Stocker more midfield. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense, given how tall Brisbane are and then how dangerous Charlie Cameron is. So we probably want Plowman playing on Charlie Cameron because he's done a number on him a couple times. So we still need to have the three guys who are able to play tall. And we know Jones and Wiedering will do Hipwood and Danaher. But McGovern seems like the perfect matchup for McStay. So I'm on your side here. I'm not sure if it'll happen, but it definitely makes a lot of sense given there's no Marchbank and there's no Parks available.
Yeah, so Parks still out for another week or two. Some people would probably say it's better to send Levi Casbolt back. Do you think that's a fair point, or do you think he's too important up front?
No, well, let's be honest. He's I don't know. That's a good point because we saw Casbolt in 2019 play good footy at full back. The only issue is I think McGovern gives us a little bit more rebound just in terms of intercepts and he's a bit more lighter on his feet, I guess, he'll give us a bit more drive coming out. Casbolt, I don't know. We have been carrying Casbolt for the first 5 weeks of the year. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, it's interesting. I just think, I know McGovern's a big fella, but I think Casbolt and Jones, and Wiedering in the same back 50 is just going to muddle them. It'll be tough. I can't see that happening. I think McGovern's more likely than Casbolt to go down back.
Fair enough. Now, it is a huge matchup. What do you think? I'm going to ask you the main key factor in this match that has to go our way if we're going to win.
Well, I think probably our most depleted part on the ground is the forward line. Silvani, Fisher, Jack Martin, Charlie Curnow, 4 of our most electric forwards aren't playing at the moment. So I think we saw it against Fremantle. We need the likes of Gibbons and Fogarty and probably Mark Murphy to hit the scoreboard and get involved and be that kick inside 50 rather than the hat kicks coming out of the middle. I think that's where we have to gain ascendancy. We just have to use the ball with a bit of care, as in the weekend was a joke.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. I think our ball use definitely has to be better. Now, very clear. Someone said, he's in for Eddie. Do you think this is something that we might do? Do you think Eddie needs a rest after playing 3 in a row?
Well, it's another 7-day break for Betts, and then we've got 8 days. So I'm not sure. I don't think this is the week to rest Betts. It's tough. It's hard for us to know, how Eddie's feeling, I guess. But on form, I know he didn't hit the scoreboard last week. The 3-goallers, he's still a bit of a presence. So, and he still takes a matchup. He'll take their best small defender, whether that's, Ryan Lester will probably be the best matchup, I'd say, if it's not Starcevic. So I think Betts will play if his body's, telling him that he can.
What about Sam Ramsey? He's had a good month in the reserves. Is he any chance of coming in?
Well, you'll know better than me, Mr. VFL. What are your thoughts on Sam Ramsey?
Oh, I like him. I think I don't know if he'll come in this week, but I think if he keeps performing like this in the reserves, they can't ignore it. I'd almost say there's so many players in the first team that are out of form. When you've got players who are in such good form in the reserves, you've got to reward it. And I think if he doesn't get selected this week and he has another top 3 on the ground performance in the reserves, they have to bring him in.
I agree with you. I think, when you're knocking on the door for that long, you've got to honour the form at some point. And with Sam Ramsey, it feels like, and as Nick said, form has to be rewarded. And I think when you do it over a sustained period like that, you have to reward it, irregardless of who you are, where you play, especially when there's guys, in his position that are faltering. So I wouldn't have an issue seeing Ramsey on the weekend. I think the one thing we do have to be careful of is we can't bring them all in at once, these untried guys, and Stocker's included because he hasn't played in nearly 2 years. You can't bring them all in at once because it just, there's too many question marks going into a game. But, if Stocker's not picked this week, I'm not sure if form has any bearing on team selection, really.
Well, Stocker had a mega week off the halfback in the reserves, and obviously we know Tom Williamson didn't play too well. That seems like the like-for-like change, doesn't it?
It does, and we discussed it, as in we can see a bit of a shuffle with, Stocker kind of playing Kennedy's, more midfield-oriented role, McGovern going down back, and Kennedy then playing that third tall forward role instead of McGovern, which he did at the back end of 2019. It makes complete sense, that Stocker for Williamson move, because let's be honest, Williamson is just, he was drowning on Saturday night. Tom Williams, he's been drowning in the whole of 2020. So, no, he has to come in. Whether, I can see a comment there, whether Setfield comes in for Ed Curnow. Ed Curnow was brilliant up on the Gold Coast. Ed Curnow has never been a clean player. Ed Curnow's never oozed class or been slick. But what Ed Curnow does that no one else does is he extracts the footy and he'll get it going forward. But this is where, we almost need a balance of inside and outside midfielders. We don't want him being that kick. We want him being that clearance handball. So I think that's where Curnow has to be careful. But apparently Setfield didn't play too well in the twos, despite pressure numbers rising. So, I think you had 11 tackles, you said. So I don't know if Setfield will walk straight back in.
Yeah, now this is a good point that Devi's brought up. Ed has to go on Neil.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I do. See, I've always been it might be minority, but I've always liked the thought of tagging Zorko rather than Neil on the basis that Zorko can hurt you going the other way in terms of if Zorko's he's not always on, but when Zorko's on, it's sometimes 30-3.
Yeah.
And that's, the game. So Curnow has to go to one of them. I don't mind him starting on Neil because obviously we know Neil is the Brownlow medalist. So I don't mind him starting on Lockie Neil, but yeah.
Now, question coming here. Does Bam Bam stay in? Matt Kennedy, what were your thoughts on his performance and does he retain his spot?
I didn't like his game on Saturday night, but I can't see a suitable replacement for him. I'm happy to give him a week in that more forward, in that more forward-oriented role. But let's be honest, he is going to be the 22nd man picked on Saturday night, I'd say. As in, Kennedy could go. He could go either way, Kennedy. He could be 22nd man or he'll be second man out with Williamson. He'll be close.
Cunningham, brought up that Cunningham should potentially come in. We haven't seen him yet this year. What are your thoughts there?
And what we spoke about are those high half forwards in that Fogarty, Gibbons, Murphy mix, and you can chuck Cunningham in there if he plays. They're the link men that made us look so dangerous against Freo. And we saw how, great Murphy was on the Gold Coast, and I thought Gibbons played a good game on the Gold Coast as well. Cunningham will just be another number in that mix, and it'd be a very important game for David Cunningham, as in he's got a lot to play for.
Surely Dow isn't sub again. He needs to find form and play in the seconds. I agree with that. What are your thoughts there?
I couldn't agree more. Paddy Dow needs to be playing and needs to be playing reserves. He needs to just go back to the Magoos, get his hands on the footy, find some confidence, find some form, because he'd been playing, he just needs to find the ball down and contribute in a team for 2 to 3 weeks, and there's no point in him being the sub whatsoever. It was an absolute waste of time.
No, I agree. Looking ahead at Brisbane, if you have to talk about their back line, they've got a lot of nice rebounding defenders. Who do you think we need to try and shut down in their defensive half?
Well, Daniel Rich, I don't know why I stumbled across this. I stumbled across a Brisbane podcast, and Daniel Rich was winning their BNF. So, and I've watched Brisbane. So Daniel Rich's last 2 years, it's been a bit of a renaissance for Rich. He is a jet. So Daniel Rich is the man. They look for him. Handball receives, as like we look for Saad, they look for Rich for rebound. We know he's a penetrating kick. He breaks lines. So that's the defender, it's going to rebound that we've got to be most careful of. He's such a good player, Rich. But that's where a lot of their, attack comes from, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. As we continue to look forward to the match, do you think what do you think Brisbane's changes will be? Is there anyone notable coming in?
Not that I'm aware of, to be honest. I don't think their injury list is too long. I know they've been kind of mixing those young guys like Pryor and Sharp and Fullerton and Devon Robertson. Those guys have been, and Caden Coleman, those guys have been on a bit of a revolving door at the moment. And Tom Berry, you can add to that mix as well. So I think, they're still trying to sort out their bottom 2 or 3, but I don't think there's anyone major returning.
Good question coming. Are we utilising Saad enough?
Oh, I would have thought so.
Do you think we could be using him?
Well, I think the great thing about Adam Saad is he's such a good defender in the same breath, as in he's elite at one-on-one defending. So we probably do need to find that balance. But I've been wrapped with Saad, as in Saad is just so reliable, and he's brilliant. He's brilliant, Adam Saad. We could probably use him more, but I guess he's playing in a backline where, and I've been harping on about it all week, where our small defenders are so unreliable and inconsistent, whereby him having to defend more isn't the worst thing at the moment.
Alexander Laird says, I don't think we're utilising Williams enough.
This I can agree with. I just think with Williams, we want Williams to be, an outside player more than he is an inside player, and we want him to be outside more than inside. And if that means moving him to the halfback flank and exploiting his strengths, then so be it. Because we're not seeing any of Zach Williams' strengths in what's made him a good footballer. He's literally, I'll give him, he has a crack. He gets on all fours, but that's not what we need right now. We need outside run. It's too rushed at the moment. Williams is doing my head in a little bit, to be honest. And he's doing my head in the sense where we know he can be so much better than what he is.
Yeah. No, it's a fair call. I agree. I think that we need to, I don't know if we need to change his position. I don't know what we need to do. I think it could be up to him maybe to pull his finger out of form.
Maybe.
Nick Newman coming back. Now, this was good news. We heard midweek that Newman and De Koning are probably a week or two away from VFL. You'd assume that they both go through the VFL for at least 1 or 2 weeks.
For sure.
Newman, I think, is one who we desperately need back in the 22. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, Newman. I'm a Newman fan. I think Newman, once again, what we're going to get from him week to week, and he gives us a bit of drive as well. We've been talking about how Petrevski-Seton's kicking just lacks any sort of danger and threat to the opposition. Well, we know Newman's possessions do. So, for me, Newman has a role in the 22, 100%.
And he takes Williamson's spot. Is that the one that you're thinking of?
150,000%.
And if Stocker comes in and plays well, then what happens?
Well, Stocker will find a role. It just means guys like Cottrell will be on a bit of alert. It means, obviously Matt Kennedy, we'll see what happens with him. So there's still, guys in that bottom 4 or 5 mix that are going to be on high alert. No one's safe, really. There's maybe, 7 or 8 guys that are safe, but it's a tricky one.
Now, just talking about Sam Petrevski-Seton, he obviously had a bit of a dirty one on the weekend. Do we persist with him in this position, or do we maybe try and push him up the ground? What would you do if you're the coach this weekend with Petrevski-Seton?
It's a tricky one because there's just not enough coming in. If we had people, pressing the door for selection, I'd probably drop him, to be honest. And people may not want to hear that, but I'd probably drop him because I'd move him up the ground so far to the point where he becomes a forward. I can't see Petrevski-Seton being a midfielder. I can't see it. He played there for the majority of his first 3.5 years. His disposal is neat, but it's not damaging. It's not, advantageous to us. For me, if Petrevski-Seton, he's had some okay games in the back line, don't get me wrong. But, for me, what annoys me with Petrevski-Seton is, he can play as badly as he wants without any threat of being dropped. And that's not his fault. That's just the reality of where the list is at. If it was me and we had the luxury to do it, Petrevski-Seton would be playing in the forward line as bona fide THC said.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. It's interesting because he doesn't get a lot of goals kicked on him, but we're not getting a lot of output from SPS. We're not getting a heap. And Angus puts it well. He doesn't kick the ball over 20 metres. I'd love to put him.
No, he doesn't.
I'd love
Can we quickly go up to the comment here from Baz about me smirking at anything he says? Now, he's the man that called pre-season that Setfield was going to be in danger of not playing. I couldn't see it. The man was proven right after a month. So kudos to Baz, who saw Setfield and, how, iffy his spot in the team was, I guess, because I didn't see it personally. But, yeah, it just shows that, you have to, and this is what I want from Petreski-Seedon. We thought Setfield was safe. Petreski-Seedon, it's not just Petreski-Seedon, just because we're talking about him, but, we need our players, not playing with the sense that no matter how, if they can, we need them knowing that there's, risk of them being omitted from the team based on form. And that's what happened with Setfield. Setfield would not have walked into season 2021 thinking he was playing a VFL game in round 5.
No, I think
no chance.
I think everything would have had to have gone wrong for that to happen, and it pretty much has.
Yep.
He even went out with illness and then came straight back in and was basically dropped again. This is an interesting one. Could our club stop hyping themselves up every pre-season? Do you think we've sort of done this a bit to ourselves? We've come out and said finals this year. Internally, they've said it. We saw, I think it was H said it pre-season, one of the coaches, and they've sort of just let us down, haven't they?
Yeah, well, to be honest, even if the club didn't come out and publicly say it, it went without saying. We have to progress at some point, and I agree with you there, Baz, because I think Setfield can still play as well. But we have to be, and even we have to be playing. Finals should have been par, really. And I fear that we're gonna, just have another mediocre year in the middle of the table where we go 9-13 and finish 12th and just drift into the abyss, really.
It's tough. Do you think what can you put it down to? Is it the playing group or the coaching more?
Bit of both. It's always going to be a bit of both. I don't think the coach is exceptional. I'll put it that way. But the development, and you're right, and we spoke about, the lack of all Australians and the lack of superstars that we take specifically from the draft. So there has to be something put onto the development or how we treat these kids coming through. I'm not sure.
When De Koning comes back, do we drop Pitto? It's an interesting one because I don't think you can play them together. In fact, I think you definitely can't play them together because Pittonet doesn't have a position on the ground, does he?
No. They played a few games together last year, and I thought I was going to punch the TV. It was ridiculous. TDK definitely comes in for Mark Pittonet, and Pittonet's a good second ruckman. But, the issue is we're judging him at the moment because he's our first ruckman. But Pittonet is a fine, backup ruck. But TDK, the only reason why I think Levi would survive, I'm not defending Casbold's performances here, but the only reason I think Casbold will stay in ahead of Pittonet is because at least Casbold can somewhat offer something up forward. He does do a decent job. I agree. I thought Pittonet was okay on Saturday night. But, when Pittonet's not the number one ruck on the ground, because De Koning will be, when Pittonet goes to the number 2 on the ground, he almost becomes redundant. Once again, he's a good backup ruckman. I'm happy for him to fill in when he needs to, but on a more permanent basis, De Koning should be rucking with a pinch hitter. And Pittonet's not that pinch hitter because he can't play full forward.
That's fair. There's a lot of, it's a tough one.
He is. I agree. I agree.
Well, team changes. You're the coach. Give us your changes for this week.
It's so hard because it'll definitely be Stocker for Williamson. I'm not sure if they're going to pull the trigger on another trade, whether it's that Cunningham for Kennedy trade to make us a little bit quicker. I'm not sure. I'm going to say they do it, though, the Cunningham for Kennedy change, but I'm not sure if I would, but I think they will. What about you?
Is Murphy, or I should say, are Murphy or Bet spots on the line?
I don't think so unless they need a rest. So I'm not sure how their bodies are holding up, but I don't think they'll be dropped unless they need to be managed.
Mm. This is a fair comment from Alexander. We don't lock it in our forward 50 well enough. Do we need to maybe bring in some forwards with a little bit more pressure, because you do feel as if the ball gets leaked out too easily, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And like Jack Silvani's a big part of that, because he's probably our number one seed in that regard. So, we definitely do need to show a bit more resistance coming out of the forward line.
We're going to quickly answer this. Where does the nickname Bolt come from?
I just always had it through school. It's just like it's stuck. It's stuck. I hate to say it, but it was kind of taken a little bit from the last half of bloody Casbolt's name. But but we don't like to say that. But no, yeah, exactly. But I've just always been called Bolt through school, and here we are today, and it still sticks.
Yeah. He's right. Josh is right. There's probably the Martin Fisher and Silvani, 3 pressure forwards are all out.
They're messing out. It changes the way we play.
Cunningham, does he come in?
50-50 for me.
I'm saying to play that role, not just come. Does he come in and play that?
Yeah, he can. What do you reckon? Would you bring Cunningham in?
It's tough. I think Stocker for Williamson's a given. It's tough with Cunningham because he played really well defensively in the forward line a couple of games last year where we won. But I don't know who to take out because I feel like it's stiff to take Kennedy out after one match. And I'm not sure, as bad as we were last week, really, who else is droppable? As in, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, there's plenty that are droppable, but there's just none that are probably going to enhance us to come in.
That's what I mean.
There's just not enough.
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know.
Worded that better. There's a lot that are droppable, but when you're looking at what we've got coming in, you've got to weigh up, are they actually going to be better than what we've already got? And I don't know. If I was the coach, to be honest, I'd probably be pretty ruthless and say, we gave Matt Kennedy an opportunity. It was perfect conditions. He didn't play too well. He was also sort of played out of position, but that's beside the point. He didn't play too well.
He's a good twos player. That's what he proved to me on the weekend. He's a good twos player.
I'd pull the trigger here. I'd go Stocker for Williamson. I'd go Cunningham for Kennedy. And I don't know, but then it's tough because I do like the idea of playing McGovern down back. I'm actually going to say if Kennedy doesn't play the Silvani roll up forward as that third tall sort of, leading third tall forward, I wouldn't play him to play in the midfield. If he's going to play in the midfield,
no, I agree.
I'd rather see Cunningham or Ramsey. So if they're going to play,
I'm on your side.
If you're going to play him in the forward line, that's fine. But yeah, and I don't know. Do we give Betts a break? I'd say I'm going to keep Eddie in because I think he helps H. I think he helps.
Fair enough. He does.
Blue Baggers, what are your ins and outs this week? If you're the coach,
and predictions for the game,
are you making? Yes, and while you send those in, Bolt, final prediction.
And everyone more than welcome to comment their predictions. Who's going to win and by how much? I'd be lying to you if I think I'm going to be tipping Brisbane. Brisbane by don't slaughter me for this. 41 points.
So you got no confidence? No confidence?
No. I never usually do though, so we'll see. But no, we are undermanned. And they're. Yeah. I can't see us.
Before we end the show, I need to ask you, and I want Blue Baggers to answer this question as well by commenting. Are our injuries a reasonable excuse for the way that we're playing?
Well, as in every club's going to cop injuries, but, the thing is, we've been developing this list since we caught a rebuild in round 2, 2015. So we should, have a list whereby, we've got 30 guys that are competent enough to come in and play the way we want to play, which we clearly don't. So I can't use injuries as the excuse because there's still enough quality on the field to win games of footy. It's obviously a contributing factor, but I'm not going to hang it on that.
I'm going to say we don't like using excuses, and we are 6 years into a rebuild, but we've just had some really bad injuries. I'm going to say it's not an excuse because, there should be enough depth by this point in our time, but I just think we've had some really bad injuries, really bad injuries. Williamson for soccer. A lot of people saying that injuries are not a reasonable excuse. I like this optimism before we end the show.
I hope so. Because everyone knows what happens when Carlton win on a Saturday night. It explodes on the town.
It does. Getting excited thinking about winning. I'm going to leave you with my tip. I reckon we'll come out. We have to respond. We have to respond after last week. We absolutely have to. And I think we'll play well. And I reckon we might just get up. We might just get up.
Oh, Zuda. Come on, Jed.
2 years at Marvel. We got them there. And 2 years ago. I don't know. I feel like we're a bit of a sniff.
Well, I hope you're right.
Blue Baggers.
Booms if we win.
Blue Baggers, thank you so much for tuning into this week's edition of Blues Footy Live. I hope we can get up. I hope we can get the win. It's going to be tough, and if we do, we'll all know about it. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Bolts, thank you for doing it again.
Thank you, Jed. Go Blues.
We'll be back next week. Go Blue Baggers.
Cheers.